A red moon hung low in the summer sky over the Arizona territory, its swollen light bleeding across the dusty plains like an omen. The usual hum of birdsong had vanished, swallowed by a silence so heavy it pressed against the skin. Inside her canvas tent, Mariah pressed a trembling palm to the wall, her breath shallow as the fortune seer's words coiled through her mind like smoke. Asterisk, she carries no seed. Her womb is closed. Asterisk at 22, her body had betrayed her long before this verdict had given it voice. Month after month of waiting, of pleading prayers whispered a sky that offered no answer, had led her here. No children, no hope, only shame whispered behind hands and glances turned away. Outside, her father Isaac Lane stumbled from his whiskey tent reeking of sweat, liquor, and something fouler, desperation. He moved like a creature struck and left half dead, staggering, snarling, but when he saw her standing in the moonlight, his bleary eyes sparked to life. "Bring me that girl," he barked, voice thick and trembling, each syllable soaked in rage and ruin. Mariah stood frozen, bathed in the red moon's glow, the color casting her like a ghost, a wound. Around the distillery, the world seemed to close in, smaller, suffocating. Isaac's hand didn't shake as he poured another cup of rock gut, his conviction burning clearer than his thoughts. "The seer speaks truth," he muttered in no one but the dark. "No more children. She's the end of us." His voice rose in broken fury. A dry branch, a dead field. No man would waste seed on her. Mariah's stomach twisted, bile and heartbreak churning. Her voice, soft but quivering, cracked as she tried, "Father, please." But he smashed the bottle onto the wooden table, splinters flying. "Enough. I won't carry this shame. I won't live in a town that looks at me like I'm cursed because of you." He grabbed her arm and shook her hard. "You're useless, worthless, a weight on this land." "I'm your daughter," she gasped. "And you're what the seer says," he snapped. "That truth outweighs everything I feel. You're cursed, girl. The line ends with you." Her tears caught the moonlight, a glint like fire on her cheeks. Her shoulders trembled, but her voice, small as it was, burned. "That's not true." He sneered. "It doesn't matter. The Apache chief has made an offer. I traded you for peace." Her heart stopped. "Peace? You don't get to argue," he slurred, pulling a parchment from his coat. "Tayson, a young chief. He promises no more raids, no more fear. You go to him. He'll take you. We'll be safe. I will be safe." Mariah clutched at his sleeve, panic flaring. "This is wrong." Isaac yanked his arm free. "You are broken, and this is the best you'll ever get. I've saved you from disgrace." She stumbled back, tears breaking free, voice rising with fury. "No, you're the disgrace." He didn't reply, just tossed the parchment at her feet and turned away. Two men stepped from the dark, boots heavy with purpose, crates and saddlebags dangling from their arms. "Time to go," one said, flat and final. Mariah spun to her father, her breath ragged. "You pity me. I pity you." He took a swig of his whiskey and didn't meet her eyes. "Goodbye, daughter." They lifted her into the wagon like a sack of corn. She felt the hard boards dig into her spine, but it was the red moon that held her gaze. It washed over her, the distillery, her father's silhouette, and everything she'd ever known. As the wagon lurched forward, her fingers dug into the wood. Each mile peeled her from the life she'd once had. Behind her, the moon dipped beneath the horizon, but the ache it left in her chest would not fade. Firelight pierced her dreams. She woke to the stamp of sandals on dirt and the low hum of distant drums. The wagon had stopped. Voices murmured in a foreign tongue. Smoke and sage thick in the air. She stepped down, skirts rustling, heart pounding. Warriors circled a great fire, shadows dancing across their faces. Alert, sharp, unreadable. At the center stood a tall man, wrapped in leather and adorned with eagle feathers. He did not move, but his eyes, gray storms behind the calm, found hers. This was Tayson. For a long moment, no one spoke. He simply watched. Then, finally, his voice carried across the fire, low and cutting. "Why did your father bring you to me?" Mariah's mouth opened, but no words came. Her breath caught. Shame coiled like a snake in her belly. She bowed her head, but then raised it again. He said, "I'm useless," she whispered. "He said I can't bear children, so he gave me to you." The crowd shifted. The tension cracked. Tayson's face twisted, rage tightening his jaw. His warriors murmured behind him, some with disgust, others with curiosity. He turned to the treaty pinned at his side, that cursed parchment of peace. "No white man will touch you, my land," he said at last. "Understand this." Mariah blinked, surprised. Not property, not cattle. That thread of dignity wound through her chest like a stitch to torn flesh. But whispers rose around her. "No children," one said. "Wasted blood," another murmured. Her shoulders curled. Her cheeks burned. She felt like fading, like shrinking to dust. Then Tayson stepped to her side, silent as stone, and laid a hand on her shoulder. His gaze cut the murmurs down. "She is not for sale. She is not a burden. She is under my protection." One warrior spat. "She is empty." Another echoed, "Not fit to bear life." Mariah fell to her knees, earth biting into her skin. Tears spilled, helpless. Tayson stood taller. "This woman is under my warrior's honor. Harm her, and you harm the tribe." The camp fell still. Even the fire seemed to hush. Mariah turned to him, her voice barely audible. "Why do you help me?" He looked into the flames. "I did not ask for this. But now that you stand here, you are mine to protect. Not a possession, but a shield." She could barely breathe. Her heart ached from the sudden weight of being seen. When another voice cried, "Return her. She is cursed." Tayson's hand moved to his blade. "She stays. Carry your grudges to me, not her." Mariah watched him, breath caught. She saw not pity but defiance in him, not for her, but with her. She stepped closer, her voice trembling. "Thank you." He gave a faint nod, then called a warrior to stand guard. He did not touch her again, did not comfort, but stood outside her lodge like a wall. That night, wrapped in furs, she listened to the night noises. Fire crackling, murmurs soft in the wind, and the quiet rise and fall of his breath beyond the tent wall. For the first time, she felt not alone. He later led her beyond the fire ring, past the stairs and whispers, to a smaller lodge beneath a cedar. It was quiet, clean, set apart, a gift of space. "This is yours now," he said. Inside, the lodge smelled of smoke and sage. A table, a pitcher, a mat bed on the table. He laid something long and dark, a flute carved with symbols, worn at the mouthpiece. He left without a word. Mariah touched the wood, fingers trembling. She lifted it, brought it close, but no sound came. Still, holding it filled a hollow in her chest. She sat by the fire, knees drawn in, and stared into the flames. She did not sleep, but she did not cry. At dawn, Tayson waited beside a horse. Mariah stepped out, hair tangled, unsure. "I will teach you to ride," he said. "Why?" she asked. "Because everyone should know how to move with the land, not just be moved." No command, just an offer. She nodded. He helped her onto the horse. No force, just calm hands. As they rode, he guided with quiet words. "Lean with the hill. Trust the horse. It knows the earth." The wind tugged at her hair. When she glanced at him, his eyes held no judgment, only presence. When they returned, her legs ached, but she dismounted alone. That afternoon, she joined the hunting party. Her hands shook on the bow. When she missed her shot, laughter followed. "Maybe her eyes are cursed too," someone said. She turned to walk away, but Tayson stepped in front of her. "No one is born perfect," he said. "We learn or we don't." His voice silenced them. She turned back, picked up the arrow, and shot again. It struck a tree straight. Not a kill, but not failure. That evening, a messenger from the southern towns arrived. Pale, loud, dressed like a banker. She was given, he shouted. She must be returned. Mariah stood behind Tayson, fists clenched. "She is not a gift," he replied. She stays because she chooses to stay. The man sneered. This will be seen as theft. Let it be seen as truth. The envoy left in silence. Later, under a bleeding sky, Mariah sat with Tayson at the ridge. Will this get worse? She asked. Yes, he said, but so does anything that matters. They sat together in a hush of deepening dusk, the world curling gently around them. For the first time, her hand brushed against his, not by accident but by will, and he didn't pull away. Above them, the desert sky smoldered like dying embers, the last light flickering gold across the hills, and between their stillness, something small but steady began to kindle, a warmth not born of fire, but of quiet trust. Night fell fast in the high desert, draping the land in velvet indigo. Near the medicine lodge, a fire cracked and snapped, its orange glow flickering against stretched canvas. Inside, a boy no older than 6 lay trembling, his breast shallow and uneven. His tiny chest rose and fell in jagged rhythm, fever burning through him like a blaze with no mercy. Mariah knelt beside him, her forehead beaded with sweat. Sleeves rolled to her elbows, her hands steady in the firelight. The women had come for her, not because she was one of them, but because she knew something they needed, white medicine. Their own healer was days away. The child's mother hovered nearby, eyes wide, breath held like it might hold back the worst. Mariah felt the heat radiating from the boy's skin and listened to his lungs, soft crackles telling her everything. She turned to her satchel, retrieved weeks ago by Tayson without question, and pulled out a glass vial of powdered quinine. Her hands moved without hesitation. She mixed the powder into water and carefully brought the cup to the boy's lips. He coughed once, then swallowed. She dabbed his forehead with cool cloth, whispering gently, not words he could understand, but ones she hoped he to feel. Stay with me. You're going to be okay. Outside, Tayson stood at the edge of the fire, watchful, still. His eyes were calm, but behind them simmered something raw, worry that crackled just beneath the silence. Mariah lifted the blanket from the boy's feet, checking for rash or infection. His pulse was thin, but it beat on. She propped his arm with cloth, replaced the sweat-drenched sheet, and whispered to the mother to stay calm. Time moved like smoke, and still she did not stop. Not until near midnight, when the boy stirred. His lashes fluttered. His eyes blinked open. Mariah leaned closer. "Can you hear me?" she asked. The boy gave the faintest nod. Outside, Tayson let out a quiet breath. From the edge of the fire circle, a soft ripple of awe passed to the gathered crowd. Someone clapped, slow and reverent. A young girl whispered, "She did it." Mariah looked toward the entrance. There stood Tayson, his form framed by firelight. Their eyes met. He tilted his head, and the corner of his mouth curved. More than a smile. Recognition. But just as the moment bloomed, it shattered. A man stepped forward from the shadows, voice sharp. "She is not one of us," he barked. "She uses tricks, not spirit. This is not our way." Others nodded. The warmth Mariah had just felt chilled in her chest. Her hands curled into fists. Before she could speak, Tayson stepped forward into fire's heart. "She healed my people," he said. "She does not belong." The man snapped again. "She healed my people," Tayson repeated louder. "She saved my cousin's son when no one else could. When none knew what to do, she did. Do not tell me she is not one of us when she has done what many here could not." Silence followed, vast and deep. Later that night, Mariah returned to her lodge. Her limbs ached. Her hands still trembled. She sat by the low bed, body asking collapse, but her mind wouldn't rest. The flap rustled, and Tayson entered without a word. He knelt, took a blanket from the shelf, and gently draped it around her shoulders. Then he simply sat beside her. After a moment, he reached out and brushed a strand of hair from her face. She looked up, her eyes glassy. He said nothing. He didn't have to. That night, sleep came like a hush, and the wind outside carried no whispers, only breath. At dawn, the sound of hooves shattered the stillness. Mariah froze, fingers gripping the edge of the water basin. She knew the sound even before the dust revealed the figure at its center, Isaac Lane. Her father. He reined in his mule-drawn wagon at the edge of the camp, his face flushed, eyes glazed, stinking of sweat and whiskey. The guards reached him too late. He jumped down and bellowed, "Where is she?" "My daughter. You think you can keep her for me?" The camp stirred. Warriors tensed. Mariah stepped out of her lodge as the crowd thickened. He saw her and stopped, his expression twisting into something half pain, half rage. "You," he growled, pointing. "You were given by my hand. You are a sacred bargain, a blood pact for peace." She stood tall. "I am not a tool. I am not yours." "You are what I made you," he slurred, stumbling closer. "I raised you. You think some redskin owns you now." Tayson stepped from behind her, his calm like a blade drawn in silence. "She belongs to no man." Isaac laughed bitterly. "You've gotten bold, haven't you? You really think the white men won't come for what is theirs?" "She stays," Tayson said softly, "because she chooses to stay." Isaac's hand darted beneath his coat. There was a rustle of leather, then a flash of steel. "No one takes what I gave," he snarled, "unless they bleed for it." The camp froze. Warriors moved. Mariah's breath caught. Then the blade came for her. But Tayson was faster. He stepped in front of her, arm raised. The knife struck just below his collarbone. A wet sound. Gasps cut the air. Mariah screamed. Tayson staggered but did not fall. Blood bloomed dark on his tunic as he drew his bow, not to fire, but to raise as a shield would brace between them. "No more," he growled. Isaac stopped, stunned. "You'd bleed for her?" "I already did," Tayson answered, voice quiet but solid as the mountain behind them. Mariah pressed her hands to his wound. "You're hurt," she breathed. "I've been worse," he muttered. "Why?" Her voice shook. His hand covered hers. "Because I said I'd protect you. And I meant it. I thought no one would ever stand for me," she whispered. "I will," he said, "as long as you ask." She bared her face in his shoulder, and around them, the crowd dispersed, silent but forever changed. Weeks passed like drifting clouds, soft and slow. Mariah rose each day to the scent of firewood and dust, the sounds of looms clacking in the weaving circle, children's laughter ringing down the ridge. She joined the women at their work, her fingers learning the rhythm of thread and dye, of herbs crushed into vibrant colors. She wove cloth strong enough to outlast wind and rain, and something inside her began to mend. One morning, as dawn blushed across the sky, she returned to her lodge and found a flute resting atop her blanket. Not the one from before. This one was different. Her name was burned into the polish with indelicate Apache script. Asterisk, asterisk, Mariah, asterisk, asterisk. That evening, she lifted it to her lips. A soft tune bloomed from it, a lullaby her mother once sang, floating like breath through the camp. Tayson sat nearby, eyes closed, listening. He never mentioned the gift. He didn't need to. Later that week, he invited her to ride before sunrise. They galloped across the golden hills, wind tugging at their hair. He let her lead. She laughed, not loudly, but freely. When they rested beneath a juniper, she turned to him. "Why did you carve my name into flute?" He met her gaze. "Because now you sound like you belong." On the first full moon of harvest, the tribe gathered beneath hanging lanterns of bark and bone. The drums beat slow and low. Mariah wore a tunic dyed in desert reds, trimmed in beads, her hair braided with feathers by the children. Tayson approached her with a circle of braided wild herbs, symbols of strength and beginning. He placed it atop her head with care. "It suits you," he said. They danced, not with hunger or haste, but with quiet steps, a rhythm of knowing. His hand fit into hers, like it had always belonged there. He raised their joined hands to the circle of elders. "She did not ask to be here," he said, "but she stayed. She stood. She healed. She fought beside me." He looked to Mariah. "She chose us, and I choose her." Silence fell. Then, softly, from the elders, a voice, "Let it be." And so it was. He kissed her, not with possession but with certainty. Mariah moved into Tayson's lodge quietly. No grand decoration. Just two lives folding into one. She stitched bone bead chimes, baked herb bread, left warm bowls by the fire for passing hunters. Children came to hear her stories. Even the dogs found comfort at her door. No one asked about children. No one doubted her place. One year after the red moon, it rose again, glowing like memory. Mariah stood by the fire when Tayson approached, offering a cloth-wrapped bundle. Inside lay a necklace, silver-bound, carved into a snowflake. Not cold, but radiant. "It's not for the past," he said. "It's for the present you chose and the future we build." Tears welled in her eyes, not from grief, but the deep joy of being truly seen. That night, they tied red cords around each other's wrists, his right, her left. "You were not given. You were not taken," he said, "and I choose you again." And again, she answered. Weeks later, her body changed. Morning light found her holding her breath. Nausea came and went. She kept quiet, afraid to hope, but the old midwife took her hands, pressed her palms to Mariah's belly, and whispered, "You carry life." Mariah froze, then wept silently, joyfully. The whispers spread like wind through the canyon. First disbelief, then silence. Even the white town fell quiet. Spring came early that year, and one golden morning, a newborn's cry echoed by the river. Not loud, but certain, alive. Tayson stepped out with the baby in his arms, cradled like a sunrise. Mariah sat nearby, damp with sweat, eyes shining like the desert after rain. He placed the child in her arms, and she held him close, her cheek to his brow. Tayson knelt beside her, hand atop hers. "He was never a promise," he said. "He was a gift." Mariah looked up, voice raw and bright. "I was never broken," she whispered. "I was just waiting to bloom." They stayed like that while the village woke around them. Not everyone believed in miracles, but they had witnessed one. And in time, the story passed from fire to fire, from voice to voice. Not just a tale of a child born or a warrior's vow, but of a truth far older than bloodlines. Love does not ask for proof. It grows where it is chosen.